Okay, I want to continue on my series on the mind-body problem and philosophy of mind, and I guess in this video I just kind of want to give an overview of what the problem is and um, talk about it since Descartes. I've done two videos before this, one about Descartes' dualism, one about Leibniz's dualism. So I just want to talk about what the problem is in a brief-ish way, and then I'll move on to talking about things like mental causation and stuff like mind-body supervenience and specific little theories and stuff like that. So, what the problem is, it's kind of been big since Descartes' Meditations on First Philosophy, as well as his other writings, but mainly the Meditations were something that people think of as something that changed philosophy. Some people even say that it crippled philosophy. That's left up to certain ideas, certain interpretations and stuff. But it's Descartes in his Meditations discussed on how the mind and the body interact, I guess, and how they are, I guess, how they are separate and how they are two different things, and is pretty much the most convincing, one of the more convincing kinds of dualism since like Plato. Plato's dualism, is more metaphysical, since there's a concrete and there's abstract. But so in that way, that can be sort of mental. But Descartes' for Meditations was kind of the most convincing kind of dualism in quite a long time. So it's the mind body problem is something is um, that is philosophy discussing and speculating about, is there two kinds of substances, or two kinds of things that makes up the self, or is there just one? A dualist, of course, will say that there's two kinds of things, or two substances that make up the self. There's a mind or soul, or there's many ways of talking about it: a soul or spirit, mind. And then there's a body, which is something that is, well, according to Descartes, it's extended, and it is concrete, and it takes up space. It has a shape. Um, it can be sensed. Those are just a couple of things that Descartes says when he's, well, in the second and the sixth meditation are basically the two meditations where he does discuss mind body interaction. But the sixth meditation is where he discusses real distinction, and what real distinction is that, well, Descartes had a interactive dualism, because the mind and the body are two separate things. They are distinct. However, they are together. When you meet a person or any living thing, you have the mind and the body, two separate things that happen to be interacting and happen to be together, even though they're two separate, distinct things. So he discussed how they interact and how it's possible, and it does happen where the mind and body do become separate. But when you meet a living person, they're two together and directly interacting, and even though they're two separate kinds of things. Leibniz says that there's two separate kinds of things, but they don't interact directly. Um, so the mind body problem has just been about, is there two substances, dualism, or is there one? One substance um, is falls under the umbrella of monism, and monism, you have different things like materialism or physicalism. There's many different kinds of things like that. Um, there's many, under the two umbrellas of dualism and monism, there are many different kinds of theories that fall under those two. But those are the two main things, and then we have tons of theories falling under those umbrellas, and that varies as to how they interact. Things like mental causation or supervenience. Um, yeah, so that's what the whole problem is. And you kind of are going to argue for a dualist or a monist position, and then you'll have a stance on about supervenience, about mental causation, um, you know, stuff relating to science, at least these days, neurophilosophy, philosophy having to do with neuroscience when we talk about the philosophy of mind. But that's kind of what the whole thing is about. Um, and there are many different things that are to be discussed here, and I plan to things like qualia, um, things like I don't know. There are a lot of things, but there are a couple things I would like to recommend that are books that are good for this. One is it's just called The Philosophy of Mind, which is by Jae-won Kim. Another one is Philosophy of Mind. I think it's called Philosophy of Mind: A Introduction by John Heil. Those two are books that um, I think are very awesome and very kind of give you a bit of a survey of the whole thing, if you will. They're just really some nice helpful things. Another one is the Blackwell Companion to Philosophy of Mind, which I have upstairs. Um, so that's kind of a brief, I guess, look at what this problem is about and what you are thinking about and talking about when we're discussing the mind body problem. So if you think I left something out or should have discussed something or messed something up, comment below. Let me know. Thank you.